What's going on YouTube? It's Tej back again with another video, and today we are running through the NFC South on our way to early 2022-2023 regular season record predictions. Hopefully you all enjoyed today's video. If you do, be sure to hit that like button and help me and my channel out a ton. And if you're new around here, want to see more football content in your life, just hit that subscribe button. And of course, join me for a conversation down below in the comment section. What do you think about the NFC South? Is it maybe the best division in the NFC in your eyes? How do you think it shakes out 1 through 4? Do you think the Bucs are headed to another Super Bowl? I'd love to have some of your thoughts. Let's talk some football down below in the comments section, and let's jump right into it. Tampa Bay, obviously you get Tom Brady back out of retirement. He was only out of the league for what, 40 days or something like that, and then outside of Alex Kappa, you keep a lot of your pieces in town. You re-sign a Carlton Davis, a Ryan Jensen. You do lose Jordan Whitehead, but you kind of figure out that safety position. You bring in a Logan Ryan. So this team is back to where they were the last 2 years. One of the best teams, not only in the NFC, but in the NFL. And I think they're going to be a really fun team to watch this year. We'll have to have them starting back-to-back years with a win week 1 against Dallas Cowboys. And of course, this is a part of a series, so we've already got a good chunk of these games already accounted for. I'll still talk through a majority of them, but go back and check out some of the previous videos in this series if you want to hear all my thoughts in depth on the Buccaneers. And I'm actually going to have the Saints picking up a win week 2. You figure to see Jameis Winston healthy in this game, and Dennis Allen's had his number. That being said, I do think Tom Brady will score his first regular season win against the Saints at home. Monday Night Football Week 13. We'll get to that later on in this video. So it's a 1-1 start. And then I think it's going to take some time for Green Bay to figure out that wide receiver room and, who's the alpha, third and short, who's picking up that first down, and who's the big play threat. I think it's going to take some time for Rodgers and company to kind of figure out who's who in that room. So let's have Tampa Bay getting the edge against another one of the best teams in the NFC. And that's going to be a really fun game. If you're a fan of old school defense, grinded out games, I think the Packers might have the best defense they've had in Aaron Rodgers' career. And Tampa Bay, Todd Bowles elevated as the head coach. He's still there calling the plays. That's going to be a lethal unit as well. Then week 4, we've already talked about this game. I'll have Tampa Bay picking up a win at home against Kansas City for a similar reason. I think it's going to take some time for Mahomes and his wide receivers to figure out who's who. Granted, they do have Travis Kelce, and you can kind of figure out him being the 1A option, the go-to guy. But from everyone else in that room, I think it's going to take some time and figure out whose strengths, give you an edge in what areas. So I'll have Tampa Bay, a couple of big home wins too. That's another part of that equation. Playing at home, both against the Packers and the Chiefs, that certainly goes a long way. And then they're just a better team than the Falcons. Sorry, Atlanta fans, no upset there. And we've already talked about this game against Pittsburgh. It's in Pittsburgh, but yeah, the Bucs, look at their roster versus Pittsburgh. You feel more comfortable with the quarterback. Yeah, there's a myriad of directions you can go with this. I'll take Tampa Bay on the road. And the same can be said for their Week 7 matchup against the Panthers. And sorry, Carolina, it's going to be another year being swept by the Bucs. And then Week 8 against the Ravens, if Lamar is playing at an MVP type of level, Rashawn Bateman takes a step forward, I think the Ravens got themselves a chance, but Thursday Night Football, I tend to be lenient towards the the home team in that matchup, despite this not being a whole lot to travel. It's a quick turnaround to then hit the road. It does make it a little bit more difficult. In this case, it's Baltimore making that travel. And look at the rosters. I do like the Ravens a ton. And, the betting lines and market have shifted now that it feels like a suspension is imminent for Deshaun Watson. Ravens are the betting favorites to win the NFC or AFC North, but still plus odds there. So it's not super certain like the Bucs minus 280. That's to talk about the division. That's not the whole story, but I think Tampa Bay is just a better football team and a better roster on paper. We talked about this Rams game in my last video in this series. Tampa Bay lost the Rams both in the playoffs, but also in the regular season. That was early on in the regular season, week 3 last year, and it was in LA. I like the Bucs getting some revenge this year, and they're just better than Seattle. So, yeah. Week 11, you get your bye, and that sets up a Week 12 game against Cleveland, and we'll see what this Deshaun Watson suspension looks like. For my AFC North video, I did with the presumption that Watson's playing the entire year because it's so hard to gauge when a suspension might come down, how long it's going to be, so it's easier to just assume, let's just say, hey, he's out there. I like Tampa Bay that much, right? There's a lot of things working for Cleveland. Let's say Deshaun Watson is out there, but you take away Amari Cooper, what other impact playmakers are there on the outside? And this is a Tampa Bay secondary that is loaded, the cornerback room. I mean, Carlton Davis is one of the best in the game. And if he slows down Amari Cooper, then Jamel Dean, Sean Murphy-Bunting, great safeties, and Antoine Winfield Jr. and company there on the back end. This is a legit secondary, and you really don't have to worry about one guy in that wide receiver room for Cleveland. Yeah, I'll give the Bucs an edge there. And then even on the other side of the football, I do like the Browns defense, but they've come with their ups and downs. We'll see where injuries take someone like a Denzel Ward or a Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, who have had their injury battles in their career. JOK, obviously a little bit shorter than that of Denzel Ward. All that to say, I feel really good about how the Bucs defense matches up with Cleveland's offense, and Tom Brady is the best to ever do it. He'll find ways to put points on the board, even though I do like that Cleveland defense. And then we've already talked about week 13. I think Brady will get that first regular season win against Dennis Allen. And then week 14, this could also flip the other way around, but Tampa Bay does a great job stopping the run. I'm singing the praises of this Todd Bowles defense today, but Vita Vea, add a Logan Hall. I think he'll be more of a pass rush impact guy, but really you add a Hakeem Nicks there to play that 3-4 DN spot, pair him up, and he's been a career-long high-level run stopper who gives you good pass rush. Pair him up with Vita Vea. Kyle Shanahan does a masterful job finding the unblocked man and creating running lanes that obviously the running game has a ton of success building off of. I think the Bucs might be a team that's built to at least slow it down a fair amount, and then it's Trey Lance presumably against that defense. Yeah, I'll take Tampa Bay there. And we talked about this Bengals game. This one could go either way, but again, talking about that secondary for Tampa Bay, I like how it matches up. It's an unbelievable wide receiver room for Cincinnati, but if there's a team in the NFL to slow it down, Tampa Bay might be the exact archetype of doing it. And on the other side of the football, again, I'm going to trust Tom Brady and those wide receivers, Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, assuming they're healthy. Also, Russell Gage Jr., I think they got a good deal there, $10 million a pop over 3 years. I like that offense, and this is a Bengals defense that is built. You can call Trey Hendrickson, I don't know if you want to call him a superstar, but you can call him a star-level player, but the rest of that defense is solid, capable players, and they're just a really solid unit all put together. I think there's enough star power for Tampa Bay to put some points on the board and create some separation there. But again, Joe Burrow we trust, right? Anything's possible with him, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, and company. Talked about this Cardinals game in the last video too. It's tough to gauge where Arizona is going to be at this point because you could look at it and say, well, DeAndre Hopkins suspended. Maybe their hot start that they've gotten out to the last 2 years won't be until he's back. Or maybe they get out to a hot start and then Hopkins comes as reinforcements and they stay playing good football throughout the rest of the year. Or maybe it's just more of the same, hot start, bad finish. And based off what we've seen the last 2 years, it's been the last of those examples. Good start, pretty rough finish, even into the playoffs like it was last year. So with that in mind, I think a lot of that goes back to Cliff Kingsbury and company. So yeah, I'll take Tampa Bay. I trust Todd Bowles. I'm singing his praises. I trust Byron Leftwich as an offensive coordinator. Those guys have won a Super Bowl for a reason. Tom Brady has the stable of consistency, and Arizona has been the complete antithesis of stability of consistency. So yeah, I'll go with the Bucs there, especially at this time of the year. They're better than the Panthers. We already talked about that, and they're better than the Falcons. So that's a win week 18. All that amounts to a 16-1 record. Okay, I'm going to have to amend something here on the fly because I'm not so sure about that. Where's a game I could see being flipped the other way around without totally ruining my other records? Let's give the Bengals that win. Whatever. Doesn't really matter. I think 15-2. If you were to ask me best record in the NFL, I have the Bills going 15-2 in the AFC East, and here I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers shaking out 15-2 in the NFC South. That feels about right. 16-1 is a tall ask. Not impossible. Totally in the realm of possibility, but unlikely. 15-2, I feel a little bit better about that for Tampa. Next up, let's talk about the New Orleans Saints. Talked about the Bucs there for a long time. I'll try to be a little more speedy here. I like the way this Saints team is built on paper. Now, is Michael Thomas healthy and playing? Can Trevor Penning immediately take over for Teron Armstead? Those are the big questions on the offensive side. Plus, is Jameis Winston able to play a full 17? Question mark there. What does Pete Carmichael's offense look like? Is it just more of the same for Sean Payton? Does he have his ability to adapt in game as a play caller? Again, question mark. On the defensive side, though, you feel pretty good. Obviously, it's worked with Mark Davenport and Cam Jordan. David Onyemata is one of the better defensive tackles in football. Demario Davis, despite his age, one of the best off-ball linebackers in the game. You lose Marcus Williams, but bring in a Marcus May. You sign a Tyrann Mathieu. You're feeling pretty good about the safeties, plus Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. That dude is all swag and makes plays left and right, so I'm here for it. Marshawn Lattimore is a great, at his peak, great outside cornerback. So there's a lot to like about that defense. So I'll have New Orleans starting the year with a win against the Falcons. And then we've already talked about week 2. I'll have them picking up a win against Tampa. And I can see the narrative getting real hot because then it's a 3-0 start, taking down Carolina, a team they actually lost to in the regular season, the first matchup between the two sides last year. And that was like full blitzkrieg, let loose there, not to make a World War II reference there. But the Panthers were bringing the house, and it was a tough time for New Orleans because obviously the hurricane going through there. They hadn't been home in a long time, and they had to kind of move around what their practices were looking like. And ultimately that offensive line just had no answer for the nonstop pressure that Phil Snow and that defense for Carolina were bringing in the direction of Jameis Winston in that offense. So time will obviously fix some of that. They already made a lot better showing there in the second meeting of the regular season. I expect more of the latter versus the former this season. And then I'll have the Saints picking up a win against the Vikings. This is a tough one. Obviously, a team that's comfortable playing in the Dome, coming to your home, which is obviously also a Dome, and Justin Jefferson, Kirk Cousins, Adam Thielen, week in and week out, that offense is capable of putting up points. I just feel a little bit more comfortable with Dennis Allen and his defense versus what the Vikings might be able to bring to the table. Is Danielle Hunter healthy? Is Darius Smith out on the field as well? What is that cornerback room shaking out to look like? So a little bit more to trust on the defensive side. I think that's enough to put the Saints out to a 4-0 start, make it 5-0 with a win against the Seahawks. First loss comes against the Bengals, and then we talked about this Cardinals one last video, but I don't think the Arizona Cardinals are going to be just completely abysmal. I think they're going to win games, especially outside of their division. I think they're going to be a really competitive team, and one of the best 4 seeds in a division or 3 seeds in a division that there are. And Thursday Night Football, I tend to be a little more biased towards the home team there, Arizona, case in point, with the win there at home. Talk about this Raiders game. This is a tricky one, but I'm banking on that defense again coming through in a big spot. Marshawn Lattimore slowing down Devontae Adams on the other side. That Raiders defense has a ton of holes in the back seven, and if Michael Thomas is playing, this is a game he's got to make big plays, and this is also a spot where Chris Olave has the opportunity to make some big plays. That is again a poor secondary and one that gave up a ton of big plays. Now it's different. Patrick Graham is not going to just sit and cover 3 like Gus Bradley did and let offenses just exploit it from that point onward without making any adjustments. So it's going to be a little different there, but this could be one where Chris Olave goes crazy, and this might be a really hot DFS play that week. The Ravens, I think, are just a little better on paper, and especially the running ability of Lamar Jackson. I think it creates enough of a headache and slows down the pass rush from Davenport and Jordan and company, forces that defense to think a little bit. But that will be a game where, like a Rashad Bateman needs to make an impact. There's got to be someone who's got to be able to win in the passing game to help aid Lamar Jackson and what they can do running the football. Saints, they're just better than the Steelers. Sorry, Pittsburgh. I like that Saints roster. There are holes and concerns, but not nearly as glaring as Pittsburgh's offensive line and Pittsburgh's secondary. So I like the totality of that roster for New Orleans. Kind of an upset pick here. This is one. It's tough to gauge at this time of the year what weird games are going to play out. When you look at the end of the season, you're like, oh yeah, remember when X beat Y in week, in this case week 11? Yeah, that was kind of weird, wasn't it? Yeah, that team's not as good. Well, it's football, any given Sunday, right? It's cliche for a reason. But I'll see New Orleans picking up a win at home and maybe slowing down that Sean McVay offense. And, the Rams, even last year, there were a couple games where you're like, this offense is kind of underwhelming. It's not living up to its full potential. And sometimes you just got to get back in the lab, get back to it. And McVay and company obviously did that and got a Super Bowl for their efforts. So I think this will be one of those weird games where it's like the Saints aren't necessarily better than the Rams, but playing at home, and it kind of just all came together in the perfect storm, and New Orleans took down L.A. The 49ers, I could see this one flipped if, Anyamata has a huge game stopping the run, Cam Jordan's living in the backfield, Davenport, same thing, Demario Davis is headhunting and finding his way to the backfield. If they can slow down that Kyle Shanahan rushing attack and force Trey Lance to beat them, okay, we can turn that around, but I think this is a spot playing at home. I'll give the edge there to San Francisco. Again, at home, Kyle Shanahan knows how to scheme up that run game and build some play action off of it. So I'll trust what I think is a slightly better team with the 49ers, but this one is truly 50-50 flip a coin, and I think it's about that way. The Bucs, we were going to talk about this game week 13. Then the bye week, kind of unfortunate. Love to see that bye week, extra time to prep for a tough opponent. Instead, it comes against the Falcons, who I think are one of the weaker teams in the NFL. The Browns with the win. Again, this is with the assumption that Deshaun Watson is playing. And, barring it being a year-long suspension, week 16, he's probably on the field. So I'm comfortable giving the Browns there a win. They'll need some other playmakers other than Amari Cooper to come through in this game because Marshawn Lattimore may well take him away. And then it's like, okay, is Donovan Peoples-Jones making big plays? Is it, Mitchell Schwartz? Is it the tight ends? all in all, I'll trust Cleveland at home, especially this time of the year. Weather could be, of concern, especially for a dome team from New Orleans heading up into Cleveland. I could see that making a big impact as well. Saints and Eagles, man. I mean, I think these are, your 6-7 seeds in the NFC, and we'll see at the end of this series how I think the playoffs play out. That will be a video in and of itself. I'll take Philadelphia at home. I'm in on the Eagles bandwagon. I think they would be my betting pick to win the NFC East, and with a lot of other people, so those lines have moved just like I talked about earlier with the Ravens and the AFC North. But I'll take the Eagles at home. I think there's two teams in a similar situation. It comes down to what quarterback is better. So we'll have a better time, better gauge of how that shakes out once we get to Week 17. Is Hurts elevated himself, or has he been a disappointment as Winston? But either of those two things. So this one will truly take time, but for right now I'm leaning towards the Eagles, and then I'll take the Saints over the Carolina Panthers. And 10-7, again, that feels about right. So I'm really happy with how these predictions are shaking out. And now we get to these two teams that are both already 0-13. So obviously I don't think all that highly of the Falcons or the Panthers, and this is not to just absolutely tear down either one of these two franchises and their fan bases, but instability at quarterback. I feel a little bit better about Marcus Mariota and Desmond Ridder versus Matt Corral and Sam Darnold. That's for sure. But where maybe Atlanta's a little better off in the quarterback room. Look at the wide receiver position. I like Drake London, and Kyle Pitts is an awesome playmaker, and we'll see what Auden Tate is. And Brian Edwards, you get him in a trade from the Raiders, but you compare that. Obviously, you feel good about London, but that is an unknown at this point. Compare that to DJ Moore, who I know is a really good player, Robbie Anderson, who's had success there, and Terrence Marshall had a couple of moments last year. Feeling a little bit better as that 1-2-3 shakes out on the outside for the Panthers versus the Falcons. We'll see if Drake London hits the ground running. Maybe I'll switch my tune there. And then on the defensive side, Carolina's definitely got a better grasp and more talent on that side of the football. Someone like a Brian Burns is someone I absolutely adore. Derek Brown is certainly someone who could take another step forward. Shaq Thompson has emerged as one of the best inside linebackers in football. J.C. Horn, if he's able to play the entire year, what little we got to see of him last year, was a really special player. So defense, I'll give the edge to Carolina, and I would say the same for their playmakers. Christian McCaffrey, throw him in the mix there. But the quarterback, I lean a little bit towards Atlanta. But all in all, I think those are both teams that should embrace another down year. For Carolina, it's really just saying, hey, kind of like we talked about with Seattle in my last video, get a top 5 pick. If you land a franchise quarterback, there's pieces in place for you to be a serious contender in a division that may soon be losing Tom Brady. And who knows what Jameis Winston in New Orleans kind of shakes out to be, and then it's you in Atlanta. And then for Atlanta, it's kind of that similar mission. Maybe Ridder hits the ground running, and maybe he's starting the back half of the year and he looks pretty good, and they want to give him a Davis Mills kind of year 2 trial run. You still got to add more talent on the offensive line, which is starting to become a concern, especially right tackle and right guard. Jalen Mayfield hasn't really worked out yet. And then on the defense, you got to add someone long term opposite of AJ Terrell, who's a stud. Need some talent in the secondary, safety positions in Pacific. Looks like you're going to move on from Deion Jones. So what are you doing at linebacker? Need an answer at edge. Despite I do like Arnold Ebiketie and D'Angelo Malone where they got them, those are still rookies. No guarantee that they hit. So. Long tangent aside, I don't think either one of these two teams are all that great. And that's why when you look at, New Orleans, they're just a better team. The Rams are just a better roster. Sure, you could flip this Seattle game, but I don't know. Seattle's got a solid, capable guy in Geno Smith. He's not great. He's nothing crazy, nothing to write home about, but he's stable, and they have a couple of wide receivers who can make a big impact. So you could certainly flip that game, but Seattle's also at home in that situation. Browns, better. Bucks are just better. 49ers, Bengals. And then I'm going to have it be a split between the Falcons and the Panthers because I think they're just about in a similar spot. I think the Commanders are better than Atlanta. I'll have Atlanta picking up a win against Chicago, but even that could be tough. But, Chicago, Darnell Mooney and who else there. But to continue talking here about this roster, because I don't want to totally overlook the Falcons and the Panthers at the tail end of this video, but Bengals were in the Super Bowl last year. Are they ready to compete on that level? The split with the Panthers we already talked about. Chargers, Super Bowl contenders. Falcons aren't. Talked about this Bears game. Washington, you could flip this one the other way around. These two teams played it close last year. Taylor Heineke, I can still see the play him just throwing up a prayer in the back of the end zone, and none other than Terry McLaurin coming down with it. Washington, pay that man. And that's what fueled a Washington win that was in Atlanta last year, this year, playing in the nation's capital. I just like the Commanders roster a little bit more. Sorry, that's such a cop-out answer, but it's just the truth. Pittsburgh, I could see that one flip the other way. Same thing with Washington, right? Because Pittsburgh and Washington, teams that you look at their roster, the defense is definitely better than the offense. So if Atlanta's able to generate just enough big plays, right? Maybe slow down that pass rush from Pittsburgh and, hold off Chase Young as best you can. And, maybe injuries also on that side of the football can change how we look at these games. But you get just enough big plays, put up maybe 20 points, and maybe your defense, AJ Terrell and company, can get just enough stops, and maybe you can sneak out a 2019 win, 2018 win, or something like that. Maybe. But if you were to ask me right now, I feel better about Washington versus Atlanta. I feel better about Pittsburgh. And then, bye week, New Orleans in NOLA. Sorry. The Ravens in Baltimore. Yeah, I'll take the Ravens there 10 times out of 10 pretty much. Cardinals are better, and the Bucs again are just better. So 2-15 record, but I know that's tough to see as a Falcons fan, and it's going to be pretty much the same thing here for Carolina. I'm actually going to make it 1-15, and then let's go ahead and just finish this off. Sure, I'll give them the win over the Lions, despite I think the Lions are a better team. So, actually, I'm going to flip these. A weird loss to the Giants, and then the loss to the a weird win against the Giants. I could see that, especially as Daniel Jones gets acclimated to the Brian Dable system. We'll talk about that more in a minute. But then the loss to the the Lions, who I think are just the better cat, I guess. But I think Atlanta and Carolina, again, they should just embrace a bad year. Have a bad year, add some top-tier talent at the top of the first round, but also you're talking about picking in the top 40, again, at the top of the second round, then in the top top 70 at the beginning of the third. So take advantage of that. Have a down year. And for Carolina, maybe Matt Rule isn't the guy to lead that franchise. I don't want to say that about Arthur Smith just yet. I'm holding out some hope there. But maybe this is, maybe you got to take that step forward before you can take a large leap ahead. But let's go ahead and run down the schedule for the Panthers. I already know I'm making Carolina fans really irritated. The Browns, this could flip. If this is Jacoby Brissett under center for Cleveland, sure, we can flip this one around. But for right now, assuming that it's Deshaun Watson, sorry, better quarterback's going to win that one. We've already talked about this Giants game, but I could see Phil Snow setting enough pressure. And there's a lot of new pieces, especially in the interior of that offensive line, so maybe some stunts, some linebacker blitzes, which Phil Snow, like I said in that New Orleans game from last year, that guy was pretty creative with how he schemes up pressure. I could see them getting Daniel Jones uncomfortable in the pocket. Maybe he's a guy who's kind of become infamous for his fumble problem. Maybe get him to cough up the ball once or twice, and if he's uncomfortable in the pocket, maybe chuck one at J.C. Horn or something like that. And, then just enough offense can get you to a road win there against the G-Men. New Orleans is a better roster. Arizona's a better roster. San Francisco, same thing. The Rams, the Bucs. Yeah, we talked about the split with the Falcons. Bengals. Yeah, sorry. If you were to just say it's minus 110 both ways, Panthers money line and Bengals money line. Think about what you would pick there. Exactly. With money on the line, you know where you're going. Talked about the split already. The Ravens are better. The Broncos are better. Bye week, you could flip this Seattle game. But again, I think Seattle's not going to be totally abysmal, especially playing outside their division. I think the NFC West is better than the NFC South. And the worst team in the NFC West, by that matter, and at least in theory, is better than the worst team in the NFC South. So that's not always going to play out that way. But I think in this case, it is true. You could obviously flip around this Pittsburgh game, especially the Steelers' offensive line. Again, if Phil Snow's just bringing the house and he got the blitzes dialed up. Trubisky has a bad habit of holding on the ball too long. That was a big concern of mine with Kenny Pickett, and I can see that being a game in Charlotte too. Maybe you flip that one for the Panthers. That gives you your third win. I don't hate that, but I'll stick with Pittsburgh right now. And then we talked about this Lions game. I just like Detroit and the core they're building, and I think as more time builds, this team's going to get better and better. They're going to feel more confident. Dan Campbell's going to have, better instincts of what to do as a head coach. And I don't know if he's going to continue to call plays. I know he was at the back half of last year taking over for Anthony Lynn. If he is, I feel like he's going to get better and better as the year progresses. Jameson Williams should be on the field by this point in the year too. You would certainly hope so by week 16. So, I just like the Lions as a better roster. And then Bucs and Saints again. Yeah. You could certainly play one of those division games because I say this all the time in this series. Division games are weird and quirky. And you'll see splits, even though two teams don't feel like they're anywhere near even with one another. So, sure, you could flip that Pittsburgh game. You could flip the Detroit game and maybe one of those division games. And maybe this is a 4 or 5, maybe even 6-win team. I'm just not seeing it right now, especially with presumed Sam Darnold's the starting quarterback. If Carolina puts it to the side and says, we're going to go out and get Baker Mayfield because he's better, forget about the money and forget about these. It's kind of where the both 2018 class quarterbacks. If they go out there and get Baker Mayfield, that's an upgrade to that position in my eyes, despite his ups and downs. that would be an upgrade. And I would feel better about this team. And, they'd go up from 2-15. Maybe in my eyes, they'd be that 4 to 5 win franchise. Still not great, but it'd be better than Darnold and the 2-15 record I have right now. But that is going to do it for my NFC South run through the schedule. Way too early style. Tell me what you think about this division down in the comment section. Do you think I have it right 1 through 4? Do you think I should change anything? Do you think the Bucs win too many games in this situation? Am I stealing too much from the Falcons and the Panthers? Love to have your thoughts. Love to talk some football with you down below in the comment section. Hopefully you all enjoyed today's video and didn't mind my rambling too much. If you did, be sure to hit that like button. If you're new around here, want to hear me ramble more about football, just hit that big red subscribe button. That's going to do it for me. Hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. And until next time, my name is Tej, and I'm signing off.